All right, let me share my screen and then bring up the presentation here. Okay. All right. So this is what we're going to be talking about. Hopefully, we're going to give you information that you didn't already have. So this is not generally what you use Chat GPT for, etc. So there's no value in doing that, of course. So we'll give you some new information, hopefully, to take back with you. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about. So just a brief on USO. Most of you may already know about us, but we're about 14 years old. And I wanted to make sure I made this point, the one you see, real data, which is highlighted. What that's saying is we have data on around 1,400 kids. What that means is we put that many kids through the application process. So we have real data on real people. How does that help us? So if a new customer or a new student comes to us, we can look at their profile, their scores, etc. And then based on our experience in our database, we can very easily or more easily than perhaps other people or especially something like ChatGPT or Google, they don't really help you that much in terms of choosing a college, but we have real data. That's the main point I wanted to make. Okay. So then we'll cover, what colleges are looking for and then the criteria. How do you choose the right college and then subjective versus objective criteria in college admissions? And then we will spend some time on essays because they are the kingmaker, right? And then we're going to go through an example of a real essay, how it's evolved over time. And then just one slide in terms of what a college applications plan looks like. Okay. And then you can ask your questions, as I mentioned, during the presentation. You can just say, I have a question or something like that, or ask on Zoom, raise a hand, which Zoom has that feature. Okay? All right, let's get going. So, what colleges are searching for? Well, no secret, they're looking for that red, beautiful rose among that wilderness. Okay? Another way of saying it, same thing, they're looking for that one student in a million, somebody that stands out, etc. So that's no secret either. And this, again, the same message in a different way. The first two, I got him from ChatGPT actually. This one is from us. I actually like this better because it makes it very clear that you can be a Ferrari, but if you're just a white Ferrari, they're looking for the red one, right? That's how you stand out. Okay? So that's what colleges are looking for, an application that stands out. Okay. So what are the criteria that colleges use? Okay. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice academics is a big pie, big piece of the pie. So it also includes what's called advanced placements. You may have heard the term AP. That's what advanced placements is. Basically, these are college level courses that high school students can take to show motivation as well as to earn some college credits. Okay. And then some students do end up taking college courses, obviously online, or some do travel abroad to Europe or US or whatever and take a course. And sometimes it does count toward credit. It doesn't have to. But again, all you're doing is to show that extra motivation so you can be that red card. Okay. And then, of course, SAT or ACT. SAT is very popular. Most of you are probably doing that. And then the NMSQT is for scholarship purposes. It's actually an SAT exam that people take in the 11th grade. It stands for National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Okay. Now, you do have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident to qualify for any kind of scholarship, of course, based on your score. But other otherwise it doesn't count. Okay. We put Olympiads here. That's more of a placeholder. It could be any kind of contest. It could be statewide, nationwide, programming contest or robotics or writing, literature, poetry. It doesn't matter. Olympiads are Olympiads. Okay? So all these are what we call are objective criteria, meaning all these come with a score of some sort. Okay? So these are very important. You must do well there because these are part of the criteria. And then what you see here, let me go here first. So research, internships, and paid jobs, very difficult to combine in India because the concept of internships doesn't really exist, for high schoolers. Paid jobs, same thing. Whereas, in other countries, Western countries, particularly like US, when we usually talk about colleges, it does come up on top, where people can do babysitting to working at a fast food joint or, just about anything. Okay. So that shows responsibility. That's all you're doing with the paid job. And research and internships, are very rare to come by. But if you do that, that's fine. It's not mandatory, but it's a good thing to have on your resume. Okay. And then this is a catch-all category, the leadership and empathy. It's a very broad category because it encompasses everything that you do outside the four walls of the classroom. Okay, it could be within the school, it could be a club that you started. You don't have to start a club, you can belong in a club. Okay, MUNs that take place, it could be that, it could be some community service that you do through the school or on your own. Any kind of problem that you've solved, organizational skills that you've demonstrated, building something, solving a neighborhood issue, anything goes in here. And this is a very important category. In fact, this is how you differentiate yourself. Because academics wise, a 91 and 93 or even 94, 95 is not going to make a big difference and by itself is not going to get you into college. Okay, same thing with SAT. A 1450 or a 1480, not much of a difference. If you're talking 1450 and 1550, there's a difference. But again, that doesn't mean just based on the one criterion that you will get in, but it will make a difference. Okay? So all the things that you do here, you get an opportunity to articulate in the essays. And I'll show you one slide on that. But so you'll end up writing about maybe a dozen essays on different topics. Okay, so this is the only place you can actually demonstrate who you are, the kind of student you are. The rest of the things, the academics, 92 in math and 98 in physics, I mean, they speak for themselves. There's not that much you need to say about that, right? But the activities that you've done, as I mentioned, community service or organizational skills or programming or designing something or solving an issue, solving a dog problem on your street. Everything matters. Okay? So, but how do you explain that? Because in the application itself, there's only two lines for each activity. Okay? So the essays are very, very important. That is perhaps what you do here in this category and how well you articulate in the essays is what's going to get you in or out. Okay. Now these are mandatory. I'm assuming these are always required. Now there may be a set of colleges where they require an average of 97%, 98%. But if you go one tier down, it may be 92%, and you go further down, 85%. Doesn't matter. The criteria are always the same. Okay. But within that, each level of colleges, they're all looking for the same thing, some application that stands out. Okay. So how do you choose the right college? How do you know which college is the right one for you? Right? Not ChatGPT. Okay, as I mentioned, I mean, there are a lot of other tools as well, right? They help you by so-called they help you by having you plug in numbers, your grades, and SAT score or APs if you've taken them. It's very common in the US system, not so common here, but people do that. And then he tries to spit out some colleges, but that's not the way we just learn, right? The objective criteria, the scores, only take you so far. What gets you inside the college are the activities, the leadership and empathy, as we talked about. Okay? So, given that, how do you choose the right college? So, what we thought we would do is to give you like three top criteria to consider when choosing a college. Okay, one of them is the size of the college. Now, why is it important? The size of the university affects the size of the class. Class meaning how many students are there in a given class. Okay, so some of the real big ones, right? Like freshman meaning the first year of college, or sophomore the second year of college. Lot of courses are common to different majors. Okay, not just engineering and different disciplines in engineering, but a lot of people outside of engineering also take many courses, especially when it comes to intro to programming, for example, or if you take a psych class or philosophy or English, definitely, right? So in a large university, that class size can go up to 400-500 students. Okay, what they normally do is they split up that 400-500 into sets of 40 or 50 people, and they have TAs, generally teaching assistants or grad students that teach those classes. But the auditorium style, which is literally an auditorium where 500 kids are sitting, that's how it works. Okay, so if you're okay with that, you can learn in their environment, then that's fine. But this should be one of the criteria for you to think about. Now, there are some colleges, they call them liberal arts colleges, which have an enrollment, a total enrollment of about 3,000 or so. I gave some names here, and some of these compete with the likes of the Ivies or Stanford, MIT, etc. Okay, so if you haven't heard of them, there's a good reason, because they're pretty small. They don't, they're not located, not necessarily located in big cities or something like that. You don't hear about them. They don't do a lot of PhD level research, etc. That's why we don't hear a lot about them. But at the undergrad level, they do compete very aggressively. Okay, so Williams, Amherst, East Coast, and then the next two are on the West Coast, and this is back in Pennsylvania, Swarthmore. These are all very, very good colleges. So, what is the advantages of going to a small college is that, because remember, the university enrollment or the college enrollment size reflects on the class size. So, this means the class size where you had 500, that may be 30. Okay. And then as you go up to be like a third year, fourth year student, you may literally have like a dozen or so students in a classroom. Now, if you're that type of student that likes and thrives in that environment where it's small, more personal, you get to know each other much better, you get to know the professors better, may result in better recommendation, all that. So these are some things to take into account. So size is number one. Second, internships. Now, these are becoming very, very important, more critical than ever, because you guys have all heard about how AI is taking over. Well, that's not the right word, but AI is creeping into every profession, right? Not just computer science or technology or programming, but if you talk about finance, economics, business, you name it, arts, art design, everything, right? So AI is there. So what's happening is the entry level jobs, many of the tasks that normally fresh graduates do, they're being done by AI. So when you look for internships, right? So you try to get ahead of that. So you have real hands-on experience. So those companies, eventually when you hire, when you look for a permanent job after you graduate and all that, these internships will help you a lot. Okay. So another reason that there's a lot of turnover and turmoil in the industry is that, companies have overhired during COVID. So now they're trying to kind of right size, downsize, etc. But so AI is not the only reason, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. We just said that, right? So 80% of the programming is probably the, number one area that's being impacted, right? So don't run away from it. In fact, run to it, embrace it, understand what it is, and see how you can get ahead of the AI. Okay, that's important as well. And then, check if that colleges that you're looking for, do they have any kind of support system to find internships for their students? Do they have a placement office? Do they have a placement officer? Right? And then look at or ask, how often or if companies come visiting trying to recruit, summer interns, for example, or for permanent jobs at the end of the fourth year or towards the end of the fourth year, right? So these are all important questions to ask. Okay, so this is important. So size followed by internship, and we left ranking by design, right? For the last, because ranking is subjective, number one. Secondly, it's really not the most important thing. Okay, tell you why. What you do in college matters a lot more than where you do it. I want to repeat this. What you do in college matters a lot more than where you do it. Now, not to say that, the Ivies and the Stanfords and Berkeley, Duke, all these Northwestern, Chicago, I'm not saying that they don't have their own value, okay? But what I am saying is that if you go to a university, anything in the top 50, they all have the same facilities, okay? Same infrastructure, same level, and same type of qualified professors teaching. So there is no difference in terms of what you get, okay? What you do with it, of course, is up to you, and that's the point I'm trying to make, okay? So if you go to a number, just pick a number like, number 35 ranked university, and then you graduate with good grades, have taken the right courses, have done right internships, and get good recommendations and all that, then you will be picked over somebody else who may have gone to a top 10 or top 20 university, but they don't have that grade point average. They're like 2 or 3 points below yours, 3.5 versus, 3.8, something like that. Or they have not done the internships, or they didn't take the right courses, etc., etc. So you will get the nod if you go to your top 35, or like I said, top 50 anywhere, you're good to go. It's what you do that matters more. Okay, please keep that in mind, because just don't go, oh yeah, I heard about this university is ranked 7, is ranked 5, etc. Ranking and the branding is important. It's not as important as you think it is. Okay? And as I just said, right, all top 50 universities have the same infra and the quality staff. If you don't believe me, you can always go and Google for, go to a particular department of your interest. If it's economics, go to the economics department of one of the universities of California, for example, or go to Northeastern on the East Coast, etc., and compare that against what you find at some of these, top 10 universities. There won't be much difference, if at all, in terms of the infrastructure as well as the quality of the staff. Okay, so these are the three main. There may be other criteria. Of course, cost is always a consideration. That's why we're not talking about it, because cost is very personal to each family, right? So we don't want to talk about that here, but it is always a factor. Okay, so size, internships, and ranking, or you can call it branding, right? In that order is very important to consider in your college selection. Okay. So little pause here. Any questions? Okay, let me move on. All right. Now, let's assume you've done a good job of choosing, 10 or 12 colleges, based on the criteria and more than the three we covered, but those three are the main ones, right? Okay, but how do you choose a major? And I just mentioned AI in the last slide also, right? So we all know AI is already here now. Let's admit it, right? So while some AI is real, there's a lot of hype as well. Okay, there are many things. If any of you have sorry, any of you guys have tried ChatGPT or anything like that, you will know that there's a lot of things it cannot do, right? But it's moving fast. Okay, people in the business, in the AI business, are the most who are in love with AI, and they're building these castles and stuff. But no, I'm not going to take anything away from the impact it's having on healthcare. Programming part, sure. You know, you can just ask ChatGPT to. But there is also a lot of things it's not yet ready to do, but it's going to happen. Okay. So how do you choose the right major? Okay, there is a question here. Let me look. Given immigration challenges, right, undercurrent, do you think students should explore other countries, Australia, Europe, or Canada? Yeah, good question, Prashant. In fact, I do have a slide on that, but I'll answer it right now. The question was, if you guys didn't hear that, given the immigration challenges and given, what's happening with President Trump, who changes his mind, like we all change clothes, right? So should we be considering other countries? And the answer is absolutely. Okay. So, I mean, I'll give you two views on this. Okay. So the glass is half full view says that if you as a student or your parent, your child is in the 12th grade, then this is the apt time, right? So, and actually, you should have started the process of looking at colleges and probably writing essays also, nevertheless, right? So, glasses half full perspective is that in 2028, Trump is going to be gone, November 2028, right? Now, we don't know what's going to happen then. Okay, let's face it. Maybe somebody worse will come. I doubt it. I hope to God, there's nobody worse than that. So people going to college who are in 12th grade now, they go to college in 26. So by the time they get out, it's going to be 2030, right? So Trump, thank God, would have been out of office for 2 years. And usually what happens is, I mean, to this extreme, I've not seen politics go in the US, but generally, there's only two parties there, right? One is more conservative, the Republicans. The Democrat, generally the pendulum swings, back and forth and kind of settles in the middle. Most of the time, especially education, most people have not touched it. But I don't know that for a fact, so I can't promise you anything, but that is one positive way of looking at it. Having said that, yes, our plan, usually if you work with USO, we suggest you choose 12 colleges with different not acceptance rates per se, but different chances of getting in. Remember that big data we have in terms of the past students and stuff, so we can easily say, given your profile, these are the 10, 12 colleges you could apply to. Okay. So what we are recommending as is already happening for other reasons, but now for this reason, the question that Prashant asked, right? So people are looking at, okay, I'm going to apply to multiple countries, maybe two, maybe even three, right? So we are encouraging that, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen and maybe things will change and then suddenly Trump will become friends with Modi again, and then, things will change at least for Indians. We don't know that. So a lot of question marks there. So yeah, the short answer is you should definitely be looking at other countries also. And UVEZO has the expertise, for all these years. If you're talking about UK, Singapore, Canada, rest of Europe, etc., etc. So we can help you across the world. Okay. All right. Uh, where is my All right. So choosing the right major, right? So one thing I would suggest is do not chase the latest fad. Okay? Do what you enjoy, do what you're good at. They both usually go hand in hand, right? We have 4 years to go, right? How things are going to change in 4 years, especially with technology, regardless of the major, like I mentioned, economics, finance, business, art, architecture, art and design, interior design, doesn't matter, right? That reminds me, actually, I was reading about this maybe a couple of years ago. There was a contest held in England it was a painting contest, worldwide, and the winner was a submission by some AI application, right? So that's bad news for the artists. And the irony is that they probably trained that AI model on these artists' work, right? You have to train the model, otherwise it can't do it. But the point I'm trying to make is regardless of what your major is going to be, or if you've already decided, don't do that, okay? Choose what you enjoy, choose what you're good at. Don't go after the latest fad. Just because somebody said, oh, machine learning or AI or robotics or something, if you like it, well and good. If not, just don't go after it for that reason. Okay? I just said that. Now ensure the subject aligns with your passion and interest. Okay? And there are dual degree programs. So within the 4 years, you can get two degrees like business and technology, or there is philosophy and computer science, statistics and and I am blanking out now. But dual degrees are possible. There is even a computer science and music, right? So math and statistics is what I was thinking about, right? So there are those options. I'm not suggesting you must do that. I'm just telling you there are options, okay? Or you can do a major and a minor, right? So you study a major, for example, in economics and then do a minor in statistics. That's also possible. Okay. But regardless of what your major is, CS, economics, business, architecture, AI can be your weapon. So make it your friend. Don't fight it. It's a weapon in your favor, not against you. Okay. So as I mentioned already, nobody knows what's going to happen in 4 years from now. Okay. So enjoy that college experience. 4 years is not that long. It's also not that short. Okay. So enjoy college at the same time. Don't worry too much, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Do due diligence now, right? And then when you do choose that major, choose that college, then you will be happy that you've done your homework. Okay? So simply put, you do you. Okay? You do what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and then of course you have to keep on top of how the landscape, the business you're in or the major you're in, how is it changing, how AI is impacting it, and how can I be a part of that revolution, evolution, whatever you want to call it, right? And then how do I change with it and get ahead of it and make AI my friend? Okay, that's also very important. All right, just bringing you back to this one for the reason I've highlighted here, the essays, right? Just to repeat, the essays. The content for the essays depends on what you have done here. What are all the activities for the last 4 years, by the way, from grade 9 through now, right, whenever the deadline is, right? Colleges like people who demonstrate empathy, leadership, organizational skills. More than anything, they want people who have been able to multitask and manage multiple priorities. Okay, because that's how college is going to be. You will have your academics, but you will also have a lot of other things you want to do and then you need to do. Okay, Again, you will have to do some things in community service area. You may want to join a club or a fraternity, for example, right? Or you may join a physics club, for example, or an astronomy club or business club, doesn't matter. So they want to see the evidence now that you're already capable. Okay, you've done this in high school, that you've done a number of things while maintaining good grades and a good SAT score. So how do you articulate all that? You do that in your essays. Okay, that's why I wanted to bring us back here, right? So this is the Kingmaker. Okay, so let's go here. Essays, as I mentioned, is the Kingmaker. Okay. Now, the reason is the Common App only allows 2 lines for any one activity. So even if you've been doing an activity for 10 years, let's say, you only get 2 lines. Okay. So that's why the essays are the place where you articulate, the experiences you've had, the leadership roles you've taken, that amazing code you've written, or some design that you've done. The essays are the only place you can do that. Okay. So colleges want to understand the type of person you are. That means who are you, right? These are the subjective criteria. Remember, we talked about that on the right-hand side of that pie chart. Not only what you are is done by the objective criteria in terms of your scores, your grades, your SAT score, and maybe, you got a bronze medal here and a gold medal there. So all these are basically scores, right? Those are all objective criteria. It's very important. You must do well in your grades 9th through 12th, as well as the SAT at a minimum. If you do more than that, that's even better. But at a minimum, you have to do that. Okay? But who you are comes from the subjective criteria. Okay? And those are the essays. Okay, due diligence goes both ways. As you are trying hard to find a good university, the universities are also trying to find good students. Okay, that's where some of these scholarships come into play. So if they believe that adding about 10,000, 20,000 scholarship to a particular resume or application will swing them in their direction, then they will do it. And this happens all the time. Okay, graduation rate is very important. How many people are coming in? How many people are going out? Right? Is there another question here? Chat. 1 second. Yeah, so it's about the OPT for international students for internships or jobs. So it's basically reducing incentive for kids to go to US. Yes, that's true. That is under consideration. That's why we have to be active and keep on top of that. They're doing all kinds of stuff, just because it's gone extreme right. It goes back to that question, right? So is US still the best option as it used to be for most students? Maybe for some it still is, right? But that's why we are suggesting that it's okay. In fact, we're encouraging that you may want to apply to other countries as well. Okay? All right. So essays, I've already talked about that. Okay? Convince them that you belong through the essays. Essays are meant to be challenging to write. Okay, it's not easy. So, giving you a heads up, those of you who have already started will probably know this already. But if you don't know that, expect to have a challenging time. But it's also a fun time. It's a time for you to introspect, reflect. Why do I want to do this? Why this major? Why this college? So, really research and find out what is your calling. There's going to be a gruesome and iterative process. It takes you 4, 5, 6 iterations to get an essay the way you want it, right? And if you work with Juvezo, of course, we'll help you with that. We have a team of writers to help you. But it's also, like I said, a great opportunity to think about, why am I doing this? Why do you want to study a particular major, etc. Okay, so chew on this a little bit. Created by ChatGPT. Okay, so yeah, this is going to happen. Do I start over? This is good enough? Or, I'm not happy with this, blah, blah, blah. So you'll feel all these emotions. That's what we're trying to tell you here, right? When you write the essays. But we got you covered at USO. I mean, we do have a team, as we mentioned, and having done this for several years and gotten students into the top 30 universities, top 40 around the world, I can safely say that we know what we're doing when it comes to college applications. Okay? All right. So I wanted to kind of take you through one essay by a student, right? So how it evolves and what is the process. You get a good feel for how this process works with USU learning. Okay? So let me take you there. So this student basically wanted to write about, I think he moved to the US from India, like when he was two or three, or maybe second or third grade, something like that. So he was trying to tell his story about his challenges and all that, how he was an introvert, how he was only into, education, studies. That's how, I mean, most Indians are anyway, right? So then he talked about his evolving into a different person. So what I wanted to show you here is, we highlight different parts of the essay. Then, we give you comments. Okay? So looks like you actually want to write about transitioning from India to US, new culture, new school, blah, blah, blah. So that was the first version. Okay? So the next version, change a little bit, right? So we still pointed out some things here, right? Resilience, perseverance, whatever. Some more comments, right? So highlighting different areas. That was the second version. Or maybe I'm skipping versions in between because we don't have time, right? And then we're like version three. I want you to consider for a second what version one beginning looked like, right? And what version three, or it's actually probably four, but I'm jumping over a couple of versions, what this looks like, right? So a lot more imagery here describing his room, just books and all that. And then he goes on to discuss how, when he started high school, how everybody else was doing a lot of other things and that made him get out of his comfort zone, blah, blah, blah. So it's a story you're telling, okay? Along the way, he's also explaining what kind of things he has done, okay? Remember I said essays are the only way, right? So the yellow highlight means we're still working on it, okay? So if you look here, right? Volleyball he talks about, okay? Talks about fundraisers at Red Cross, okay? And then the STEM club, which he was part of, etc., etc., right? So then this is a way for him to tell the story and also highlight the things he has done. This is the only place you can do that, okay? Hope that made some sense. It may take more iterations than that, but I just wanted you to have an idea. This is the process we follow at USO. Okay. Here's a I think it was Prashant who asked the question, right? So here's one. It's actually a real Excel file from a real student who joined college this year with our help. So what this person has done, as we were talking about, for other reasons than immigration or whatever issues we're having now, but he wanted to do US and UK as well. So that's why you see there's a tab for UK, right? So we make a plan, right? So you have reach colleges means chance of admission is low, middle means 50% chance of admission. There's one more category which is not being shown here. It's called safe. Okay. So as I mentioned, we normally choose 12 colleges across these three categories and prepare a detailed plan. These are all the essays, that you have to write. How many essays is what this column is showing you, column F. right? For each university, there can be two here, three there, etc. Okay, some recommendation letters. So we won't talk about that too much, but I just wanted you to know that you can apply to multiple countries at the same time. So UK, right? So if it's UK, then we pick colleges and then we give all the details, what kind of scores does that university need? So one difference between US and other countries is that the other countries, UK, Canada, Singapore, etc., they give you admission based on the actual score in your 12th board exam. Okay. Whereas US looks at your ninth, 10th, 11th, and predicted score. They give you admission based on these things on the predicted score, which doesn't have, so your actual score, where US is concerned, doesn't have to match the predicted score. If it's close enough, good enough, right? But other universities, specifically, for example, here, if you see in the UK, it says if you're doing IB, you need a total of 40, right? 20 points in three higher level subjects, including grade 7 in mathematics. They're that particular, right? So just to give you an idea, so you can apply to multiple countries. And we also said other countries you can apply to, which we have experience with. Include Singapore, Canada, Australia, ROE is rest of Europe. Okay, we've done Italy, Spain, and other countries as well. Okay, so yeah, there is a change in strategy, and we are part of that change, right? And we are here to help you. Okay. All right, what can we do for you? Well, we have different levels of service. Okay, the white glove service is, remember the Excel I just showed you. So we work with you, we help you pick the colleges, we make a detailed plan, we help you with the essays, we help you with recommendation letters, we help you with the application. So it's end-to-end service. Okay, we help you choose 12 colleges and then do the whole thing. We're with you all the way, dedicated WhatsApp group just for you. So the students, parents, and then counselors and administrators from UASO site form that group. And, obviously we'll do Zoom as well as and when required, a video meeting. Dedicated counselor you get. Okay, no limit on the number of iterations on an essay. So if you have ever talked to other counselors or institutes, right? Many of them say three or four or whatever, but there's a limit of how much feedback, how many times they will give you feedback. After that, they're done, right? We don't do that. We're more focused on the quality of the outcome as opposed to the number of the iterations, okay? And then maybe some may choose, okay, I know what colleges I want. I want help with essays. Sure, you can do that. We can choose which essays, and of course how we price that is different than a fixed price in the white glove service, which is a fixed price. You get it all in one price. It is much more cost effective, frankly, but you can choose to do this, right? No limit on essay iterations again, or a customized service, right? And maybe you have some different needs which are not covered in the first two categories. Then tell us what you want and we'll work with you, right? We'll prepare a plan for you, right? And then we'll help you execute it. Okay, so okay, I have a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see. Okay, new. What is a common app? Also, will this and record be shared? So, common app is an application, is the application that a student must use to apply to a particular university. If it says it requires you to apply through the common application. Okay, so I would say 85% of the colleges, if you choose 12 for you, about 7, 8, 9 will go through the common app. There's only a few. The major ones are University of California. That system goes through its own. There may be a couple others, odds and ends here and there, but other than that, most of the time it's going through the common application. And then that means, you have to provide an essay, you have prompts, they give you 7 options. All this you'll do much ahead of time, right before the deadlines are due. You write one essay from there and then the college specific essay. This presentation is being recorded and will be shared. Okay. Another question. Many foreign universities are opening campuses in India also. Can you think it's a good? Okay, so excellent question. Um, I think they are opening, but I don't see any, in fact, even in the top 40 or 50 from anywhere opening campuses here, right? So, but for the sake of discussion, let's assume um, somebody in the top 40, let's pick like Boston University, right? It's a good, very good university. If they open a campus here, so it's going to be cheaper. That's a given, right? But personally, from what I have seen already and what I've seen in other countries, like NYU has a Dubai campus, and then there is, unless it's a country like Singapore where they take things very seriously and make it work for the real reasons. Even Singapore, they have a lot of, these affiliations and stuff. You go to school in Singapore, but the diploma comes from some college in the UK. I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, coming back to this question specifically in India, even if they start doing this, number one, they have to be quality universities. Is the government willing to now? Who is gonna install, prepare the infrastructure, just like the US universities would have, right? Where are the teachers gonna come from? Okay. See, generally when it comes to engineering, as we all know, the IITs, NITs, and bits and all that are, they're probably just as good, right? But when it comes to a lot of the other majors, I don't think from India, within India, you can get the right faculty, right? So I think it's going to take a long time for this to evolve. First, the quality of the universities and the quality of the staff, which will pull in the quality of the students. So I think it's going to take a while, and I don't know if it's going to work at all because if any of you have seen the campuses in the US or UK and compare it to even the IITs, I mean, I've been to IIT campuses. They're not at all impressive, right? What makes IITs so good is because of the students that struggle for 4 years, right? Doing math, physics, chemistry, and then taking exam after exam. There is another view on that also. Is that the right way to do it? That's for a different time, right? That conversation. But so I am not very optimistic until maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It does take a long time for a university to evolve. Now they could take an existing some university and then bring in the right faculty, etc. But where is the research going to come from, right? Who's going to do the research? Now, Trump is actually doing the rest of the world a big favor by kicking out PhD students and master's level students, etc., and staff, right? Because where are they going to go? They're going to go to countries that welcome them, right? So India should take that opportunity and welcome these people, welcome Indians back, and not just Indians, right? There's a lot of talent around the countries, around India. So bring them here, but the challenge is again the infrastructure, the professors, and the quality of the campus, etc. That's what my concern is. So the short answer is, I'm not a big fan, but you really have to weigh pros and cons when it really comes down to one university here versus one university in the US or UK. Then you can make your decision. Now, there is a university called Ashoka. It's outside Delhi. They've been around for about, I don't know, I'm gonna say 8 to 10 years now. They're turning into a decent university, right? But it's going to take him another 10, 15 years to become a world-class university, right? So it takes a long time for that to happen. Hope I answered your question. Any other questions or comments? Going once, twice. All right. Okay. Thank you for joining. Those of you who did, we will share this recording with you. Oh, there's one more question. Okay. All right. Thank you for insights. Okay, session. Okay. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Again, if we can be of any assistance, just talk to us or send an email to uazolearning@gmail.com and we'll be happy to work with you. Okay. Thanks again, guys. Have a good night.